Hi children, welcome. Welcome to today's social science class. In this video, I'm going to explain about major landforms. The landscape is being continuously worn away by two processes, weathering and erosion. Weathering is breaking up of the rocks on the earth's surface. Erosion is the weathering away of the landscape by different agents like water, wind and ice. The eroded material is carried away or transported by water, wind, etc., and eventually deposited. This process of erosion and deposition create different landforms on the surface of the earth. Work of river. The running water in the river erodes the landscape. When the river tumbles at steep angle over very hard rocks or down a steep valley side, it forms a waterfall. As the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming a large bends known as meanders. Due to continuous erosion and deposition along the sides of the meander, the ends of the meander loop come closer and closer. In due course of time, the meander loop cuts off from the river and forms a cut off lake, also called an oxbow lake. At times, the river overflows in the banks. This leads to the flooding of the neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other materials called sediments along its banks. This leads to the formation of a flat, fertile floodplain. The raised banks are called levees. As the river approaches the sea, the speed of the flowing water decreases and the river begins to break up into a number of streams called distributaries. The river becomes so slow that it begins to deposit its load. Each distributary forms its own mouth. The collection of sediments from all the mouths forms a delta. Work of sea waves. The erosion and deposition of the sea waves gives rise to coastal landforms. Sea waves continuously strike at the rocks, cracks develop. Over time, they become larger and wider. Thus, hollow like caves are formed on the rocks. They are called sea caves. As these cavities become bigger and bigger, only the roof of the caves remain, thus forming sea arches. Further, erosion breaks the roof and only walls are left. These wall-like features are called stacks. The steep rocky coast rising almost vertically above seawater is called sea cliff. The sea waves deposit sediments along the shores forming beaches. Work of ice. Glaciers are rivers of ice which to erode the landscape by bulldozing soil and stones to expose the solid rock below. Glaciers carve out deep hollows. As the ice melts, they get filled up with the water and become beautiful lakes in the mountains. The material carried by the glacier, such as rocks, big and small, sand and silt, gets deposited. These deposits form glacial moraines. Work of wind. Have you ever visited a desert? An active agent of erosion and deposition in the deserts is wind. In deserts, you can see rocks in the shape of a mushroom, commonly called mushroom rocks. Wind erodes the lower section of the rock more than upper part. Therefore, such rocks have a narrower base and wider top. When the wind blows, it lifts and transports sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, the sand falls and gets deposited in low hill like structures. These are called sand dunes. When the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it over very long distance. When such sand is deposited in large areas, it is called loess. Large deposit of loess is found in China. Okay, children, I'm going to wind up this video. And this chapter is also over. Now you have to read this chapter many times and underline important points, then to given marks. Thank you. Thank you to listening my class.